When a reckless young fighter pilot takes on 20 enemy jets alone, she rewrites the rules of air combat and earns an invitation to a secret program that doesn't officially exist. What begins as one impossible battle becomes the birth of the most feared pilot on Earth, the Black Witch. They said I flew like I was trying to die. Murphy, you're going to get yourself killed, or worse, take someone with you. The instructor's voice crackled through my helmet as I yanked my F-16 into a tight barrel roll that made my flight lead curse through the comms. I should have cared. I didn't. At 24, just 6 months into the elite strike fighter training program at Ravenfield Air Base in Nevada, I'd already earned the kind of reputation that makes instructors drink more coffee and fill out more reports. Too bold. Too aggressive. Not enough respect for protocols or risk margins. They weren't wrong. I just didn't see the point in pretending war comes with neat boundaries and safety lines. No one here knew why I flew this way. None of them knew how many hours I'd spent in my childhood bedroom, flying combat sorties in my mind before I even knew how to drive. They didn't know my father was Commander Ellis Murphy, a Navy test pilot turned Air Force legend, until he died crashing a prototype jet that shouldn't have been cleared for flight. He used to tell me, "Fly like it's already your sky, Rena, because the minute you hesitate, you're a target." So, I didn't hesitate. That morning started routine. Simulated intercept exercises. Standard formations. I was assigned as wing to Captain Jordan Blake. Experienced, by the book, and clearly annoyed I was on her 6. "Stay on script, Murphy," she said as we prepped for takeoff. "No cowboy moves. No hot dogging." "Copy that," I replied, keeping my voice flat. But inside, I was already reviewing every scenario they wouldn't expect. Angles, altitudes, blind spots. That's what I trained for, what no one ever saw in the debriefs. At 0800, we launched. 2 F-16s climbing over the craggy desert that bled red under the rising sun. Blake flew textbook. I flew formation. Barely. The simulated intercepts played out exactly as planned. No surprises. Until the surprises came. "Rena." Blake's voice cut in, suddenly sharp. "Are you seeing this?" I was. My radar was lighting up like a Christmas tree. Multiple fast movers on a northern vector, low and hot. "Unknown contacts bearing 007, I said. "Speed Mach 1, 4, and climbing. Count, 20. Repeat, 20. "What the hell?" Blake went quiet for a second. Then, "Ravenfield, this is Talon 2-1. We've got 20 bogies approaching fast, unknown configuration. Confirm." The reply was clipped. "Talon 2-1, radar confirms multiple fast movers, unidentifiable origin. Hold position. Intercept, but do not engage unless fired upon." Hold. 20 aircraft? In American airspace? Flying combat formation? I switched to visual as they broke through the upper cloud layer, and my blood ran cold. MiG-29s. Russian fulcrums. In full strike posture. "Jesus," I whispered. "This isn't a drill." "Rena, defensive pattern echo," Blake barked. "We hold. Do not break formation." I could feel it building inside me. That rising certainty. If we waited, we were done. If I didn't move now, Blake was going to die. We both were. Then the lead MiG spiked its radar. "Locking on." Blake shouted. "I'm spiked." Braking left. The missile launched. Time slowed. I pulled the stick hard, 7GS crushing my chest, flipped vertical, and rolled into position behind the lead MiG. A move I should not have been capable of. Not at this stage. Not without blacking out. But I was already squeezing the trigger. "Fox 2, I said, voice ice. The sidewinder peeled off my rail and nailed the fulcrum dead center. "Fireball. Gone." Blake's voice was raw in my ear. "What the hell was that? How did you?" "No time," I cut in. "2 more on your 6. Dive now." She obeyed. I climbed, rolled, and dropped into the trailing MiG's blind spot. This one was good, aggressive, precise, but I was better. We locked into a vertical scissors, a brutal climb and dive dance for advantage. I pushed past the jet's limits, past my own. 4th loop. He stalled. Fox 2. Boom. Another kill. I didn't wait to celebrate. The rest of the swarm was already converging. For minutes in, and I was already fighting for my life, with no orders, no backup, and no one who understood what I was doing. Blake shouted over the radio. "Rena, they're everywhere." We need to break south. She was right. We should have run. I didn't. I went straight into the swarm. I fired my last long-range AMRAAM as I dove into the belly of the formation. A MiG peeled away trying to flank Blake. I hit it mid-turn. No hesitation. My second AMRAAM tracked a fulcrum on the edge of the group and tore its wing clean off. For down. 16 to go. Blake screamed into comms. Murphy, you're out of your mind. This is suicide. Negative. This is math, I said calmly. Stay defensive. I'll draw them. You'll draw them? But I was already gone, climbing into the sky like it belonged to me. My radar painted more red than green. They were all shifting toward me now. Good. That's what I needed. Chaos. The kind they weren't prepared for. I punched up to 35,000 feet, then inverted and dove through their loose triangle formation, slicing it apart. Another Sidewinder gone, slamming into a MiG trying to reacquire me on radar. That was 5. I had 1 missile left, and my cannon. The radio crackled. Talon 2-1. This is Ravenfield Control. Reinforcements are 7 minutes out. Repeat, 7 mics to backup. I didn't respond. I was too busy dodging a pair of heat seekers tearing past my left wingtip. One of the fulcrums had almost nailed me. Almost. I broke into a high-speed barrel roll, flipped belly up, and came down on him like a meteor. He tried to dive, but I was already pulling the trigger. The Sidewinder launched. Direct hit. 6. But I was Winchester now, no missiles left. Only my 20mm Vulcan cannon. 15 enemy jets still filled the sky. Blake was breathing heavy. Murphy, this is nuts. You can't. You've got 3 on your tail? I cut in. Break southeast. Go now. She hesitated, then peeled off hard, dragging 3 MiGs down with her. I followed the 4th that stayed behind, looping after me in a tight spiral. He wanted to dogfight. Fine. We circled in savage, screaming turns, me bleeding speed on purpose, him trying to gain angle. I chopped throttle, flared, and dropped just low enough for him to overshoot. My fingers squeezed the trigger. The Vulcan barked. 511 rounds of truth, and I only needed 10. He exploded. 7. I caught my breath, barely. My pulse was spiking, my limbs aching, my back seizing from the GS. But I didn't stop. The MiGs regrouped. 7 of them formed a diamond wedge and came for me, guns blazing. I didn't evade. I climbed. Straight up, afterburner roaring, G-forces trying to black me out. Oxygen flooding my mask. Everything inside me said this was madness. But madness, my dad used to say, was just courage that ran out of explanations. At 45,000 feet, their missiles lost lock. The air was too thin, the angles too steep. I rolled inverted dove. Speed bled fast, Mach 1. 3. I opened up with the cannon on the way down, clipped another MiG's stabilizer. He spun out in flames. 8. Then I threaded between 2 others and made them break formation. They weren't fighting coordinated anymore. They were reacting. I had turned the hunters into prey. I knew that feeling. I lived for it. Down to under 300 rounds in the gun and low on fuel. I was riding the edge of what my F-16, what I could take. But I wasn't done. I dove low, nearly scraping the desert floor. My HUD flickered from the G-forces, and warning lights blinked like Christmas. I cut throttle just enough to stay beneath the radar clutter and punched east toward the canyon ridgeline. The MiGs hesitated. Terrain scared them. They didn't know this desert like I did. I'd grown up 20 miles from here. These rocks and cliffs were my childhood. The first fulcrum that followed me and caught the worst of it. He tried to mimic my low flight, but I banked through a narrow canyon split at 600 knots and watched his jet smear into the cliff face, trying to keep up. 9. 5 left. I climbed again, fast and steep, punching holes in the morning air. Another warning blinked. Fuel state, critical. I had maybe 10 minutes of flight left if I didn't want to glide home on a prayer. And I still had 5 enemies chasing me. But I didn't slow down. I never did. One tried to cut me off as I crested the ridge. I inverted, rolled right, then snapped around in a high G turn that should have made me black out. Instead, I came around behind him and lit him up with the cannon. 10. His wingman peeled away in panic. That was the moment. The moment when I knew I had them. They weren't coordinated anymore. They were scared. Ravenfield, this is Talon 2-1. I said into the mic, breathing hard. Confirm ETA for support? 2 minutes, came the reply. 2 minutes. I could survive 2 more minutes. Blake's voice broke in. Murphy, where the hell did you learn to fly like that? I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure she, or anyone else, would understand. But the truth was, my father didn't just teach me how to fly. He taught me how to think like the jet. He used to say, "Your aircraft is more than wings and thrust. It's a sword, and the best swordsmen don't swing wildly. They pick the one moment that matters." And this was my moment. They came at me all at once. The remaining fulcrums tightened formation and dove, maybe hoping brute force would win where tactics had failed. I counted them 4. All armed, all aggressive, all pissed. I was nearly out of ammo. Maybe 30 rounds in the Vulcan, tops. No missiles. No tricks left. So I made myself the trick. I pulled vertical again, hoping they'd follow. They did. One broke early, smart, but not smart enough. I dumped speed mid-climb and fell into a descending spiral, bleeding altitude fast. He dove to follow, but I had the angle. I flipped nose up just as he leveled to stabilize, and I squeezed the trigger. The rounds walked across his fuselage in a tight line. 11. The gun clicked empty. I was dry. No missiles. No gun. Just wings, speed, and nerve. The last 3 MiGs reformed, clearly trying to box me in. That was fine. Let them. Ravenfield, be advised. I called over the comms. Talon 2-1 is weapons cold. Repeat. Winchester. Still engaged. 3 hostiles in pursuit. Control answered. Copy. Raptors are 60 seconds out. Can you evade? I'll try, I said. But I didn't. I dove straight into the heart of their trap. They expected me to run. Instead, I used the last thing I had, momentum. My jet dropped fast, gaining speed, and I looped underneath them. Too fast, too sudden, and they missed their shot. I flew right past their kill window. And that's when I heard the new voice. Talon 2-1, this is Falcon Flight. For Raptors in the pocket. Tally 3 bandits. You're clear. We'll finish this. I didn't cry. Not then. But I'll be honest, my hands started shaking. I banked away, breath ragged, as the Raptors made short work of the final 3 MiGs in less than a minute. Precision flying. Clean kills. Like the cavalry was supposed to be. I let go of the stick for just a second and let the sky carry me. By the time I touched down at Ravenfield, my fuel gauge was a heartbeat from empty. Ground crews ran out to meet me, but I sat there in the cockpit for a second longer than I needed to. My gloves were soaked with sweat. My flight suit clung to me like armor after battle. And for the first time, I felt the weight of everything I'd just done. 11 confirmed kills. Alone. I'd broken every rule in the book. Orders, formation, engagement protocols. And I'd saved lives doing it. But I knew what was coming. The debrief room was cold, clinical. The kind of place designed to make you feel small, no matter how fast you flew. I sat at the head of the table across from 3 senior officers, 2 intelligence analysts, and General Corinne Hayes, commander of Western Air Defense Command. She was the one who spoke first. "Lieutenant Murphy," she said, tone flat, unreadable. "We've reviewed your flight data, audio recordings, HUD telemetry, and gun camera footage." I nodded once. "Yes, ma'am. What you did up there was extraordinary. Impossible by most standards." "Thank you, ma'am." She held up a file, thick, full of notes and charts, but also insubordinate. "Risky. Reckless. You violated multiple engagement protocols." "Yes, ma'am." She set the file down and leaned forward. "So tell me, where the hell did you learn to fly like that?" And there it was. The question I knew was coming. I could have lied. Blamed instinct, panic, adrenaline. They might have accepted it. Might have just sent me back to remedial training or buried me in a desk job until the media forgot my name. But I didn't lie. "My father was Commander Ellis Murphy," I said. "He taught me how to fight in the sky before I ever flew my first simulator. I've studied every air-to-air combat engagement since World War II. I trained with him for over a decade before he died." General Hayes narrowed her eyes. "And you never disclosed this level of pre-training during your assessments?" "No, ma'am." "Why not?" I looked her in the eye. "Because I didn't want to show my hand until it mattered. My father always said, you don't win in the sky by showing off in training. You win by surviving the fight." The room went quiet. Then Hayes leaned back and said, almost grudgingly, "Well, you survived. They didn't court-martial me. Didn't reprimand me either. Instead, General Hayes closed my file, stood slowly, and said something I'll never forget. "Lieutenant Murphy, What you did today rewrote what we thought was possible in a cockpit. The Air Force sees talent like this once every generation, maybe. She stepped closer, her voice lowering. You have a choice. That caught me off guard. Ma'am? You can finish the standard training pipeline and take a line assignment. You'll fly patrols, drills, and spend your time doing good work. She paused. Or, she said, you can join something else. A program so classified it doesn't have a name, only a mission. We train pilots who don't just react. We train the ones who rewrite doctrine. It won't be on paper. You'll disappear into a squadron that officially doesn't exist. What's the mission? I asked. Air dominance, she said. Anywhere, anytime. Against anyone. No rules, but the ones you carry in your gut. My pulse picked up. Do I have to think about it? She smiled faintly. No. You already made your decision up there today. I didn't hesitate. I'm in. That night, they flew me to an undisclosed hangar hundreds of miles from Ravenfield. No markings. No call signs. Just darkness and silence. When I stepped off the transport, there were 5 other pilots waiting, 3 men, 2 women. None of them spoke. All of them looked at me like they already knew who I was. My new squadron leader stepped forward. Captain Rena Murphy, he said, reading from a file. 11 confirmed kills in a single engagement. You've already made history. Then he gestured behind him. You ready to meet your new ride? What stood behind him was not an F-16. It wasn't anything I'd seen before. Sleek. Angular. Like a predator mid-hunt. Rena, he said, this is the Valkyrie. She was beautiful. Jet black skin, no visible rivets, no markings. A shape designed to vanish into the sky and into radar. Twin engine, thrust vectoring, angular intakes set low and hungry. She doesn't show up on satellite infrared, my new CO said. And her radar cross-section is smaller than a sparrow's. What is she? I whispered. She's what happens when DARPA and the Air Force stop arguing and just build the damn thing. Valkyrie isn't a designation. It's a warning. He walked me around her, his voice low, reverent. She can cruise at Mach 2, 8 without afterburner. Carries air-to-air and air-to-ground payloads we're not allowed to admit exist. AI-assisted threat tracking, advanced ECM, and the flight control system is intuitive. She responds like she reads your mind. I ran my hand along the edge of the wing. It felt alive. Why me? I asked. Why this? Because we don't want safe pilots in Valkyrie, he said. We want the ones who fight with teeth. You weren't reckless out there, Rena. You were honest. He handed me a helmet. Matte black, lightweight, no emblem. Your first test flight is in 4 hours. Get some rest. I didn't sleep. Not because I was nervous, but because for the first time in my life, the machine I dreamed of flying was real. And I knew, deep in my bones, that she was going to fly like nothing I'd ever touched. And that whatever waited out there, the unknown threats no one wanted to name, Valkyrie and I were going to meet them first. The test flight wasn't a test. They called it that, but I knew better the moment I was airborne. Valkyrie didn't fly. She hunted. She responded like a living thing, an extension of my thought process. The moment I even considered a maneuver, she was already executing it. There was no lag, no delay. It was as if we were wired together. We crossed Mach 2, 5 before I even realized we'd passed the mark. I danced her through canyons, climbed to the upper stratosphere, dropped into dives that would have torn the wings off most jets. And she didn't complain. She begged for more. Then came the call. Talon Ghost, this is Control. Reroute to grid vector Delta 69er. Multiple bogies entering restricted airspace from the west. You're the closest asset. I blinked. Copy that, Control. Ghost en route. It wasn't just a flight test. It was a trial by fire. I reached the grid within 3 minutes. Valkyrie's sensors picked up 6 bandits, stealth drones, unflagged, high speed, no transponders. They were flying tight and aggressive, ignoring hails. Control, this is Ghost. I have 6 hostiles. Unresponsive. Trajectory suggests inland penetration. Request rules of engagement. The pause was brief. Ghost, you are weapons free. My fingers hovered over the weapon systems. Valkyrie didn't carry sidewinders or AMRAAMs like my old bird. She carried things I didn't recognize. Hypersonic micros, advanced tracking swarm munitions, pulse disruptors. I let her guide me. 2 drones peeled off, climbing. I looped beneath and fired a single burst. No missile lock tone, no warning. Just a flash of light and a mid-air disintegration. For left, they split, trying to draw me out. I stayed centered, then dove at the lowest one, firing a burst that tracked through chaff and ECM like it didn't even notice the interference. 3. They finally fired. Twin pulses aimed at my vector. I dropped speed, spun laterally, and rolled beneath the projectiles so fast I nearly passed out. Valkyrie adjusted instantly, compensating before I even finished the thought. One drone got behind me. Big mistake. I pulled a corkscrew roll, reversed thrust mid-loop, and it overshot, too fast to recover. I opened up with the main gun. 2. The last 2 tried to run. I didn't let them. They ran fast, those last 2 drones. High-speed evasion patterns, banking north at full burn. But Valkyrie was faster. She didn't chase like a predator. She stalked like a shadow. I angled up through a high arc, climbed above their flight path, and dropped into a silent descent from 30,000 feet. Valkyrie's sensors projected their evasion vectors before they even completed them. I fired a twin shot, 2 kinetic penetrators, no exhaust trail, no warning. Both drones shattered mid-flight. 6 enemies eliminated in less than 5 minutes. I leveled out, breathing hard, not from fear or effort, but from something I hadn't felt in years: purpose. Absolute, unshakable clarity. I wasn't a mistake or a fluke. I was exactly who I was meant to be, and Valkyrie. She was built for someone like me. Control's voice crackled in my headset. Ghost, confirmed 6 Kia. Area clear. Return to base for debrief. Copy, Control, I said. En route. The hangar lights were low when I landed. No fanfare. No applause. Just my CO waiting on the tarmac with a cup of black coffee and a look I hadn't seen since Ravenfield. Respect wrapped in wariness. You were supposed to observe, he said deadpan. They shot first, I replied. He gave me a nod. And you ended it. That night, a call came down from so high up in the chain of command, no one ever said their name out loud. All I was told was this. Effective immediately, Captain Rena Murphy is cleared for Operation Black Halo. Classified. International. No public record. The kind of mission that doesn't exist until it's over. The next morning, I was wheels up again. And the world would never see the sky the same way. 3 months later, I was a myth. No name. No call sign on public rosters. No mention in briefings. Just rumors. Whispers passed in classified corridors and cockpit chatter from foreign intercepts. Some called me the Phantom. Others Rogue Star. But the title that stuck came from enemy comms. The Black Witch. Pilots who tried to chase me vanished from radar. Those who glimpsed Valkyrie said she wasn't a jet. She was a shadow with teeth. No survivors meant no confirmations. Only fear. And that was the point. We weren't fighting traditional wars anymore. We were intercepting threats before they became headlines. We were disrupting invasions that hadn't yet left the planning table. Valkyrie and I existed between seconds, in the edge of global silence. One night, back at the base, deep underground, 3 continents from where I was born, I found a letter waiting in my secure inbox. It had passed through 6 levels of encryption and 3 approvals. It was from Blake. The subject line read, "Still flying. Rena, that day over the desert? It changed everything for me. Not just because you saved my life. You did. But because I saw what happens when a pilot flies with nothing held back. No fear. No politics. Just commitment. I've studied your combat footage more times than I'll admit. I don't know how you did what you did, but I know why you did it. You flew for us. For the ones who weren't ready. For the mission, sure, but also for something bigger. For the idea that we don't win by being cautious. We win by flying like the sky is ours. I'm trying to fly that way now. Not reckless, but real. Honest. Because of you. Wherever you are, whatever they're having you do, just know you left a mark. See you in the clouds, someday. Blake. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I opened my private file, the one labeled Murphy Doctrine, the tactical notes and combat philosophies I'd written over the years, the things my father taught me, things I added myself. And I added one last line at the bottom. The sky belongs to those who stop asking permission. I saved it, closed the file, and walked back toward the hangar, where Valkyrie waited, dark and patient beneath the hum of unseen stars. It was time to fly again. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.